The scream cut through the apartment like a blade through skin, sharp and raw and full of fear, and Jonah Vale froze with his hand on the cracked kitchen counter, knowing in that instant that if anyone outside heard it, they would not come to help. They would come to kill. Jonah had learned long ago that the world did not rescue people like him. He was small in every way that mattered to society. A limping factory worker with a quiet voice and a face no one remembered. A man who had learned to survive by being invisible. When the lockdown began, invisibility became his only shield. The streets emptied, the screens screamed warnings, and soldiers replaced neighbors. While the city learned to fear everything that looked different, Jonah lost his job in a single message. He lost his routine. He lost the thin sense of belonging he had built from habit. Then the government sent him an alien. Keth arrived with nothing but a small case and wounds he tried to hide. His silver gray skin dull under human lights. His eyes heavy with exhaustion and shame. Jonah almost shut the door on him, almost chose fear over kindness. But something in Keth's quiet pain felt too familiar. So Jonah let him in. Into unwanted lives were forced to share a space too small for secrets. They lived carefully at first, speaking little, moving softly, both afraid of becoming the reason the other died. Outside, hatred grew louder. Inside, silence grew heavier. Jonah noticed the scars on Keth's arms, the way he flinched at sudden sounds, the way he stayed awake long after midnight, pressing his injured forearm against the wall as if pain was easier to face than memory. One night Jonah asked what happened. Keth answered simply that human soldiers had marked him, hunted him, and left him broken. Jonah did not argue. He had seen enough to know it was true. Days passed, and fear slowly turned into understanding. Keth spoke of his world, of red sands and twin moons, of a people who believed humans were born of fire because they fell from the sky in burning ships. He spoke of a season his kind feared, a biological storm called heat that stripped away control and exposed power and desire alike. He called it a curse, something that made his own people abandon him when he was captured, something that turned him into a danger even to himself. Jonah listened, not judging, because he understood what it meant to be labeled broken. Then the mark appeared on the apartment door, a crude symbol painted in red, a promise of violence disguised as warning. Jonah's stomach twisted. He knew what came next. The building manager's eyes lingered too long on Keth's door. Neighbors whispered. Soldiers patrolled closer. And then, locked inside the bathroom, the season began. Heat rolled through the apartment like invisible fire. Keth screamed once, then bit the sound back, ashamed even in agony. Jonah pressed his hand against the bathroom door and felt warmth radiating through the wood. Keth begged him to stay away, to lie if soldiers came, to save himself. Jonah realized in horror that Keth was offering his life to protect him. That offer broke something open inside Jonah. He sat on the floor outside the bathroom and talked through the door for hours, telling Keth about his childhood, about being unwanted, about being passed over and pushed aside, about learning to live with loneliness like a second skin. Keth listened between gasps, whispering that he too had been abandoned, not only by humans, but by his own kind, who feared what he became during heat. When pounding hit the apartment door, Jonah's fear sharpened into resolve. The manager demanded entry. Soldiers raised rifles. Jonah stood in the doorway and said no. He lied. He stood his ground. He refused to give Keth to a world eager to burn what it did not understand. When the bathroom door opened and Keth emerged, shaking and glowing faintly with uncontrolled power, the hatred in the hallway surged. A neighbor lunged at Jonah with a knife. Pain tore through Jonah's side, hot and blinding, and he nearly fell. Keth caught the attacker without hurting her, digging his claws into his own flesh instead, choosing self-pain over violence. The soldiers hesitated. Jonah bled. The truth became impossible to ignore. Keth healed Jonah's wound enough to keep him alive, revealing an ability his own people had taught him to fear. A power bound to the very season meant to shame him. Guns lifted. Orders were shouted. Jonah stepped in front of Keth again, arms spread, refusing to move. He told them they had already taken everything from him and he would not give them this. In that moment, Jonah understood that weakness was not the absence of strength, but the absence of choice, and he was choosing now. Kath felt the season surge, felt the power threaten to break free, and for the first time he did not run from it. He listened to Jonah's voice. He chose control over destruction. When soldiers stormed the hall, Kath unleashed a wave of force, not to kill, but to protect, pushing them back just enough to create space. The building shook. Alarm screamed. Jonah dragged Kath toward the fire escape as bullets cracked against concrete, as pain screamed through his bad leg, as fear chased them down the stairs. In the alley below, drones descended, lights blinding, weapons ready. Jonah shielded Kath with his body, prepared to die. Then neighbors emerged, drawn by chaos and truth. Phones raised, voices shaking, witnesses at last. A woman spoke up, others followed. The soldiers hesitated under watching eyes. Kath collapsed, the season still raging, power burning him from the inside out. Jonah knelt beside him, holding his trembling hand, refusing to let go. In that narrow space between violence and mercy, something shifted. Not the world, not the laws, but the story being told. Two outcasts stood together, human and alien, broken and hunted, choosing each other when it would have been easier to choose survival alone. Jonah realized that humanity was not defined by species or strength, but by the moment one life refused to abandon another. As sirens wailed and the night closed in, Jonah stayed with Kath, knowing the future would be dangerous and uncertain, but also knowing that hope had been born in the smallest, bravest way possible, through connection, sacrifice, and the simple refusal to let fear decide who deserved to live.